indeed set the tone, created the atmosphere, along with everybody else who has participated, including the practitioner and the volunteers and everybody. And now all I have to do is stand here and just open my mouth and let him speak. And let the coal cracker download and say what he wants to say over this theme in the scripture, the fruit of your labor. And I want to congratulate us for all of these many, many years. That's a lot of years here. Isn't it, for this church? And think of the many, many hundreds, even probably thousands of people who've been helped directly through this church, one of the numbers of churches that makes up the movement. I've had fun, through this teaching. The theme is the fruit of your labor. As this theme is developed, we are going to grow.
Yes.
We are going to heal. We are going to not learn, but we are going to, in this moment, in this now moment, realize, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Realize our answered prayer. It can be done. Now, sometimes people come to a situation like this, or teachings like this, or these kinds of environments, to learn how to do something. They pick up the tools, and then they are going to go and use them, and going to go and apply them. But that's antithetical. That's oxymoron. That's not what we're about. That's not it. You're starting off wrong. You see, the way to approach it and the way to do it is to know that it's done right now.
Yes.
Even as you hear, even as you listen, the words that go forth out of my mouth, our mouth, teachers like us, instruments like us, they're not our words. And the words are words of power. They are healing power. And so what happens is that they are seeds of power, and as they impact and impress through your conscious receptive mind into your subconscious mind, something happens now, immediately. And they burst on a time release. In your consciousness. And see, the scripture says where two or more agree, where the head and the heart agree, where the conscious and the subconscious mind agree, there is a marriage. Something happens and the Father takes over and doeth the works. So as I'm speaking consciously, subconsciously, you are in agreement, hopefully. Let's everybody say, I agree.
I agree.
I'm in agreement.
I'm in agreement.
I'm in agreement with what I hear.
I'm in agreement with what I hear.
So as I speak and you agree and receive, there am I in the midst of them. I is the Christ that doeth the work. And so you should expect as I'm talking is that something is changing in your consciousness, and by extension, expressing in your life on whatever level it is that you came here with a need for, or something that you're aspiring toward and you want to demonstrate, or whatever. And when you go out of this door back into your natural consciousness, then you see signs. Signs follow, they don't precede. You see evidence, you see signs of what happened as I'm talking here. But it works through my subtopic, the power of attention. Now, to understand this scripture that the theme comes from, the fruit of your labor, you go to Psalm chapter 128, and the New English New Thing, that version, New International Version, reads this way. Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to Him. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours. Now I'm going to repeat that scripture 2 or 3 times. But what I want you to do is listen for the intrinsic meaning of it, the inner meaning of it. The translation is how it applies to your everyday life. Now, the author of our textbook in the glossary says this to help us to break it down. He says, we did not make life, and we cannot change it, but we can use it. And the use of life is through the imagination, because this faculty, the imagination, has at its roots the very wellspring of life and action. It, imagination, awakens within us all the inner forces of nature and stirs into action latent powers, which otherwise would never come to the surface. It says latent powers, plural. One of those latent powers that it stirs within us is what I want to focus on. And that latent power is attention. Attention is in your awareness. So I want to talk about, now this text of it comes from the book written by Neville, you got it, Pastor, send your pass out. When I reference Neville, you have a pass out of where the text is going to come from. But Neville is going to help us to understand in a very practical way how to build, how to develop the power of attention that is in your consciousness. Listen to what Ernest Holmes is saying to prepare for what I'm going to say in a moment on that. Again, in the Science of Mind textbook on page 406, Ernest Holmes says this. Now, he told you about imagination, right? He says, since the spirit is present in its entirety, watch this. Since the spirit, with capital S, spirit, is present in its entirety at all times and in all places, then it follows that all of spirit is wherever we center our attention. Yeah. Just think about what I just said. Just think about what I just said. And what you are coming into a greater awareness of is the power that is in right here, closer to you than the breath that you breathe. In your attention is the whole Spirit of God, ever present in that spot, in that instant, in that thought. Let me reread it. Since the Spirit is ever present in its entirety at all times and in all places, then it follows that all of Spirit is wherever we center our attention. Now that is good and bad. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But when we look at our life in terms of the problems that we're experiencing, the sickness, the disease, the upset, the lack, the limitation, the impasse, and the this and the that, it's a direct expression of this that I just said. This is the source of it. Of something that is good producing something that's not so good. It follows that wherever we center our attention, its image must concentrate substance into the form of that attention. Blessed are all who fear the Lord, that's the scripture that I started off with, who walk in obedience to Him. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours. The Lord that is spoken of here is the law. We're talking about a universal law that is everywhere present and everywhere equally present. What we're learning and teaching here is how to use the Lord, which is the law of mine. It talks about your labor. You will eat the fruit of your labor. Your labor is your conscious and unconscious use of this law. Your conscious and unconscious use of this law. This law is intelligence. It is the intelligence of God, which is the mind of God, that we're immersed in. It is a part of what we are. It is what we are. It is energy. It is energy. It receives the impression of our feelings and our thoughts and our beliefs and acts, our pictures them through this law. Now, again, Dr. Holmes still setting us up so I can help Neville come in here in just a minute. You sense the spirit? I do. Ernest Holmes says this: each one of us today is the result of the use he made of the law, either consciously or unconsciously. Now he says this, he gets a little sarcastic. He says, as soon as you realize this, you will see that what you are now is the result of what you have fought into this law. And the answer to what we shall be is contained in what we are now thinking. For we can change our thinking. Whatever it is that you thought into this law that has expressed, manifested, demonstrated in your life to your unliking can be changed quicker than it was manifested. By a change in your thinking. The same law that created it and expressed it, demonstrated it, is the same law that will reverse it, neutralize it, and cast it out, and render it nothing. But our problem is that because of the human condition and the human way of thinking, when we create something that is fearful, that we don't like, that is no longer useful, we get scared. Not scared. We get scared. We get worried. We get anxious. We get weak. We run from it. It came through us. I created and I'm running from it. And I'm afraid of my own creation. Let's read it again. Blessed are all who fear the Lord, who walk in obedience to Him, who live according to the instructions of the Lord. Well, the Living Bible interpretation of that same scripture says this: blessed are all who reverence the Lord. Not fear the Lord. Reverence. Reverence simply means respect. We do not teach the fear of God. We explain that archaic word simply meant and means respect God. Respect the Lord. Respect the law. I'm going to read two verses from the Old Testament to show you the difference between how the New Testament teaches the same thing that the Old Testament taught, and how Jesus came. He said, I come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. And then we have people like Dr. Ernest Holmes, Neville, Fox, Goldsmith, and many hundreds of other philosophers who came in and ushered in the teachings of the New Thought movement, who gave us a very simple way of understanding this same thing that I'm talking about, so that we could practice it in everyday living. Amen. Listen to this old way that it was taught in practice. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and then chapter 28 in different verses. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all the commands I give you today, this is God speaking to the people, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. All of these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. But watch this. Now if you refuse And we're under this consciousness right now. We talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk. Now, we say this is not me. We say we don't believe this, we don't practice this, but the evidence of the mirror of your life says that you do. And so a message like this brings you from under the curse of the law, under the fear of the law, into the reverence of the law, as Jesus taught, and as our teachings help you to apply. Now, he says, if you refuse to obey the laws written in this book, thus refusing reference to the glorious and fearful name of Jehovah your God, then Jehovah will send perpetual plagues upon you and upon your children. He will bring on you all the diseases of Egypt that you dreaded, and they will cling to you. The Lord will also bring on you every kind of sickness and disaster not recorded in the book of this law until you are destroyed. Now that's a loving God. Well, guess where your cousin is at this morning? At church. This is being taught to them right now in your churches. Right? That's why you were here. And most of us have came through that. And the reason this is happening to you because you have broken God's law. The reason that this disease is you must have done something wrong somewhere. And this is karma catching up with you and on and on and on. Well, if God put it on you, who the heck is going to get it off of you? That's my rationale. Then why are you going to pray about it? If God put it on you, I don't see no help in being healed here. That's my thinking. So, what it is that Jesus came to teach is not just what will happen to you if you don't do something, but what happens if you do. Not what happens if you don't, but what happens when you do.
Praise the Lord.
Not happens if, but what happens because you did it, and you did the right thing for the best reason that you knew at the time. Am I right? And that all punishment from what you have done and how you have used the law is self-punishment. God does not punish, and God does not give you consequences. He said in his book, it is done unto you as you believe. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he about whatever it is that you committed or omitted.
That's right.
It's your thinking that is the punisher. It is your belief. It is your guilt. Guilt is an emotion. You choose the emotion of guilt. All right? Ready? Someone else is here. On page 126. Each one of us today is the result of the use he made of the law. We shall see that what we are read that already. Now, what I want to go to is Neville's help here, and that's in your pass out. Neville helps us to understand how it is that attention is the power that is in your consciousness, that is in your mind, that works through your imagination, that is creating the fruit of your labor. He says, in proportion to the narrowness of its focus, that is, when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation, in proportion to the narrowness of the focus of your attention, to the proportion that it's a single idea, is going to determine how it works out in your outer world. It is steady and powerfully focused only by such an adjustment of the mind as it permits you to see one thing only. For you steady the attention and increase its power by confining it. Okay. Are you familiar with the scripture? Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is what? That's attention. And so our goal is to learn how to stop being distracted, keep thine eyes single, not be double-minded, not be always listening to two voices, not be always seeing things in two or more different ways. Attention, that means attention is not focused. And we're talking here about the power of focused attention. The desire, which realizes itself, we're going to transpose, make that desire here means your answered prayer. Whatever it is that you're aspiring toward, whatever it is that you need to change, whatever answer you're seeking, that's a desire. The desire which realizes itself. So what it is telling us from the start is that desire realizes itself without your help. There's an intelligence in desire. See, when the desire came of the Father, day of Son the Father, knocking at the door of your mind, it came with its own answer, it came with its own design, it came with its own solution. It is time for it to be born and expressed in your life. That is the desire. So it knows how to realize, demonstrate, manifest itself, but it can only do it with your cooperation. And that's why the scripture says, with God, all things are possible. God can do anything, yes, but God cannot do anything without you. You want God to do it for you. God says, I will do it with you. And the way I do it with you is through you, through your imagination, through the power of your focused attention. Now, when you decide to bring your attention away from the problem, away from the worry, away from the upset, away from the sickness, away from the pain, and focus on the answer and the solution only, then it will express. It will find a way. It will find a way. It will make a way out of no way. The desire which realizes itself is always a desire upon which attention is exclusively concentrated. For an idea is endowed with power only in proportion to the degree of attention fixed on. If it hasn't happened yet, if it hasn't worked yet, if it's not working, then your attention is on something else. Your attention is something, not enough attention is on the solution, on the answer. There's too much attention on the energy seeping out, on worry, doubt, unbelief, impossible. Can't see no way out. Don't know where to be. Worry, doubt, unbelief. Goes on to say the attentive attitude is directed from some specific end. Therefore, when you know what you want, we're going towards attention. Here, from here forward, is teaching you how to build the intention, how to develop this intention from what I say to the end, which is just 5 more minutes. You gotta catch it. The attentive attitude is directed. You see it's in parentheses here? Both from. The attentive attitude is directed from some specific end. You have to go to the end. You have to go to the end of the desire fulfilled. You have to go to the end of that prayer request. That thing that we got to go to the end and live from the end of it. You got to get into the feeling of it. You've got to walk like it's already done, smell like it's already done, act like it's already done. You have to be it. You have to become the thing itself. It says the intent, that's where your attention is now. The attentive attitude is directed from some specific end. Therefore, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of being that thing. The feeling of having that thing. The feeling of, what would you do if you had it? What if you do if you were rid of it? What if you do if he was gone? already? You know what I'm saying? What if you do if the problem is already solved? What if you do, how would you act and how would you feel if you were already in the house? How would you feel if the money is already here? How would you feel if somebody hasn't spoken to you for 40 years, all of a sudden shows up loving you? How would you feel? How would you feel? You have to get from the end, it says, and focus your attention there on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until that feeling fills the mind and crowds out all other ideas. Let me tell you what you didn't see there. Let me reread it and tell you what you didn't see. Until that feeling fills the mind, and this is spiritual healing. This is the definition of spiritual healing. This is what spiritual healing is. It says, until that feeling fills the mind and crowds out all other ideas out of your consciousness. That's healing. And when all other ideas are crowded out, guess what's left? The solution, the answer, the cure, the answer, the solution. Because there's nothing else. It crowds it out. The great secret of success is to focus the attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled without permitting any distraction. Now here comes some work. You got to shut up. It's as simple as that. Now, you're talking to the ego. You got to train the ego to shut up. Stop. Because it comes to, John 10:10 says, it comes to steal your attention. But it didn't say it like that. It says like this. But the thief comes, but means one single reason. But for what? To steal, to kill, and destroy. That means to take your, the only way you can do it is slaves. Come on. Destroy your work in 10 seconds by listening to some fool. It shows up in people that you know and make them fools.
Yeah. Come on.
There's it. You have to stop the distraction and keep your mind focused. Concentrated observation of one thing shuts out other things and causes them to disappear. Sickness, please. Problems, please. Difficulties, please. Unworthy. I'm not prepared. Forget about it. I said that too quick. It says it right here. Forgetting those things. Forgetting those things that are behind. You can press towards the heart of filling your mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, for a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Then Neville says this is no easy practice. In other words, this teaching, this practice is not for lazy people. When you walked in this door, you got work to do. This is not for lazy people, because as soon as you go to bed, you're tired. They got to practice this. You know people who are not going to practice. I won't say you. But you're not going to practice this. But you got to not fall asleep at night, but the last thing that you do practicing this. Get into the end. Get into the feeling of the thing you desire, and you're building your attention, and you're going to see yourself as that, feel yourself as that, become it. He said, this is no easy practice. He said, this will greatly help in developing the muscle of your attention. Your attention must be developed, controlled, and concentrated in order to change your concept of yourself, your present concept. Imagination is able to do anything. I guess got 2 paragraphs. So you gotta hurry up and get it. Imagination is able to do anything. Do you know what that is a translation of? With God. all things are possible. With God, that's what that just said. With God, all things are possible. With man, this is impossible, Scripture says. But with God, the word is with. With God, how? With your imagination. With and through your imagination, for imagination is God in man. With imagination, all things are possible. And with the developed muscle of attention in imagination, but I'm going to put a little cream on it now. Because look what happened when you went to the inn. And when you're falling asleep at night, and you're building that muscle of attention, you're infueling it with intention.
Yes.
With intention. With intention. But I ain't finished, as they say in the commercials. We're gonna add some more purpose. Purpose. What you are building is intention and purpose in this attention, which empowers your imagination. Now your imagination is released. And then John chapter 14 kicks in. I go before you. You release that power. Imagination. Go before you now. Propelled by your intention, comprised and composed of your intention and purpose, and with God in your imagination, in that attribute, all things are possible.